Back here inside our PTN studio, time for Ask Mike. We're joined now by Mike Irwin. Mike got a whole lot to talk about. The transfer portal, Arkansas, really a dud of a game on Saturday at Auburn. That is not the team that we have seen. And even baseball getting going, opening day of practice on Monday. So you got a thought on what exactly happened to the Arkansas basketball team there on Saturday for them to fall that flat against an Auburn team that I believe was 9-6 coming into that game?
Yeah, I thought they would lose. I really did. I just didn't see them losing. They were down by 29 at one point.
Yeah.
Wow. We didn't expect that at all.
You kind of waited for them to maybe turn a quarter in the second half,
Yeah.
turn a corner, show some fight. Just unfortunately really didn't happen. I see that's actually pretty much our first question here, so let's dive right into it. Number one, coming from Cajun Hog, who asked, can you explain what happened at Auburn? It's a road game. I get it. It's not losing that worries me. It's getting run out of the arena by a non-ranked team.
Yeah, I think what you saw there is what happened. Look, this team, its offense has carried it. And at various times, their defense is okay. Sometimes it's been bad. Sometimes it's been better than the defense was really good against Tennessee. We talked about that. So it varies. But you can't have bad defense and bad offense at the same time. Now, Darius Acup, he scored 19 points, but he had 1 assist and 3 turnovers. And if you went back and watched that game, they just didn't have the ball movement they normally have on offense. And it was largely because he's not carrying them. So it's like more people were handling the ball that weren't him, and they were throwing it away. So you have a lot of turnovers. So when you combine that with the fact that the defense vanished for large parts of the game, and then you have a disaster on your hands. I think at one point they were down 29 points with maybe 2 minutes to go. I mean, did anybody expect that? That was just bizarre. I'm sitting there watching that, and I'm going, now we see what happens if Acuff is not on his A game and they happen to play bad defense at the same time. It was like a worst case scenario.
Does the defense concern you? Because I do think there have been times where we've seen them maybe not lock people up, but the effort, the intensity, it's there. They can get after people. When you get to the NCAA tournament, these games really, really tighten up, and some of these offensive reliant teams can get upset in the opening week.
Yeah, we're getting kind of late in the season for the defense to improve. I think what you see is kind of what you get. I think, again, they're going to be inconsistent. Some games they'll play better. One of the other things that we see is they haven't played a lot of true road games. Yeah, just 3 I think of. And so they won one of them. Maybe that took something out of them. But then you see what happens. It's just hard to win on the road in the SEC, although there's some teams that have done it already. There's just been some surprises. I don't think you can ever – basketball is so unpredictable, I don't think you can ever assume anything.
Yeah, I was just a little bit surprised, I guess, by how it all went down. I thought they were really turning a corner. Felt to me like they were through the meat of the schedule. Those 5 big-time non-conference games. I didn't really feel like they were going to see a team in the SEC that was better than Tennessee, who they had kind of handled there in the second half. But who knows? As Cal said, he's just chalking this up. We had an off night. Hopefully that's all it was. Next question here coming from Pigsfeed, who wants to know, bad game or bad timing in a loss to Auburn?
Well, it was both. I think they did play poorly. We've already covered that. But here's the part about the timing. Okay, so Auburn plays on Tuesday. You don't play till Wednesday, and plus they play back-to-back road games at home. Mm-hmm. They don't do any traveling. Arkansas had travel problems coming back from Ole Miss. Can't remember what it was. They had to take a bus to.
They were fogged in. They had to bus to Memphis to fly home.
And then fly home, get home late. Everybody's tired, so you don't do much on Thursday, and then at Friday you got to get up and go on the road again. So I can see where you get into a fatigue situation. A team you're playing is just sitting there waiting for you because they had lost at home, a game they thought they won, and they had to be reviewed, and then they applied to the conference office, and I'm sure Auburn fans still feel like they got the last-second shot off at times, but they're not going to turn that game around. It's just not going to happen. Once you leave the arena, it's going to be whatever it is. So they were mad. So you get their best shot, but again, they got 2 good players, but they have a 6'7" kind of very active forward, and then a typical 6'8" more of a power forward. And they just made Arkansas's inside guys look bad. I thought Ewan played okay, but the other two just weren't there.
They had no answer for Keyshawn Hall.
Oh.
That kid went off. That looks like a big-time NBA player, and he doesn't quite talked about being in that same class as the Darius
but he
Acuffs.
is.
Yeah, absolutely he is. Heck, he could even end up being player of the year if he can keep on putting up numbers like that. Next question here coming from L.R. Arkey, who says, I think it's time to adjust our thinking on our basketball team. This is not a Final Four team, not an Elite Eight team, not even a Sweet 16 team. Those type teams don't get down by 29 points to an unranked team. Man, L.R. Arkey throwing some shade, man. Bit of a hater here on the Arkansas basketball
I've
team.
heard some fans, maybe not that dramatic, but I've talked to some fans that have said that. And I would tend to agree. The guy I was talking to said, you think Nolan, when he had good teams, they ever got beat by like that? If they lost to close games. So I would agree with that, but I still don't think you can talk right now about what's going to happen in the NCAA tournament. There's still a lot of games to play. They theoretically could get better defensively.
Imagine what we thought of Arkansas this time last year.
They're
as it
a
would relate to
lot
an
better
NCAA
off than
tournament.
they were last year, even now. So I don't think it's just a disaster. But I would tend to sort of agree with that. Unless something changes. You mentioned it earlier. When you get into the NCAA tournament, you've got to play good defense. There are games that you just can't advance if your defense is not there. And I think they did that last year when they got into the tournament. Their inside game got a lot better because their big guys got healthy, and Brazil started playing really well. Well, Pringle's got to come around. He just has to. And we keep talking about that, but he has to. If he comes around, Ewan's playing well enough. I think he's progressed. Brazil, we've seen he scores a lot of points in that game. He does nothing defensively. And so, and I think he had so much trouble. He has trouble up top. If he's trying to guard somebody, that's maybe, and he's quick. That's what, yes, I know the guy going around him, and he's a great player, and he's 6'7", and he's fast. But you're quick too, and you just, to me, lost focus. It's like I'm standing here and boom, there he goes. And then he doesn't even follow behind and try to go up and bat the ball away. So I just think he really played a bad game defensively.
What's this I keep seeing here? The unranked team thing. Are they? Not all unranked teams are equal. I believe Auburn had not lost a game to a mid-major program. I think all 6 of their losses coming in had come against high major competition. This is Auburn. Good program, sells out the building. Bruce Pearl, they were in the Final Four 1 year ago. This isn't like some nothing loss for a team that's probably going to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think the unranked part is they're saying this wasn't like those other games Arkansas lost. And Cal himself said it. So I think they're just trying to separate that game from the other games that Arkansas lost this year. Hey, this is different. This team wasn't as good as Houston. So come on, what are you doing?
So getting down 29, a flat effort, that's concerning. Go back to the Ole Miss game. The way that ended.
Yes.
Were you concerned with that at all, or was it, because if I'm being objective here and being fair, was that just more of a, Ole Miss was hitting everything they were throwing up? There wasn't much.
No, I mean, they came back and got it down to, I think, 4. And then I think
and they were really making shots.
I think Acuff kind of hit the accelerator in the last 30, 45 seconds, and they got it back up to 7. And in the end, I just think the clock ran out and they weren't in any danger in the last 40 or 45 seconds. But that game kind of was just a little, it just shows you how tough it is to win on the road. Ole Miss is struggling this year, and even they were hard to beat at home. I don't know when you start looking at other road games Arkansas has this year, where's the win? I mean, you don't know.
Georgia and Alabama are going to be really tough games to play on the road. I think they have one at LSU. Yeah. I think they have one at Oklahoma. Those are a little bit down team. Maybe Missouri, I think they're going to. So those are some teams that, maybe they don't get into the NCAA tournament. That could be different competition.
It's not easy to win on the road in this conference.
No, you're playing 18 league games now. Back Southwest Conference days? I think they're only playing 14. SEC days, I believe, 16. So a conference this good that they're not going to get 14 teams in again. They're not. 16-team league. But they could get 9. They could get 10. They could get 11. That's that's possible. And even the bottom of the conference can sneak up there and they can get you here. Next question here coming from Torqued Pork. Say that 5 times fast. Who asks, Auburn was fired up after feeling like they were robbed in their previous game. They probably won't play that well again this season. The Hogs played like they would have rather been doing something else.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. So you combine those two factors and you get a bad result. But there's something else. You mentioned it earlier. I mean, yeah, Bruce Pearl's not there, but that's one of the toughest since that facility has been built. I've been told it may be the loudest in the SEC because of the way it's constructed.
Yeah,
real
intimate feeling.
They're just right down on top of you. It sort of makes the argument that a bigger arena is not necessarily necessary. You don't have to have Rupp to have an impact. And I know their students are very active. That's why they call it the jungle. I think it's always going to be tough to win there. And again, I did not assume they would win there. I did not. I thought it would probably be a loss. Just thought it would be close.
You mentioned the arena, and it's a fantastic facility. Seat for seat, some say it's the best in the SEC. So you kind of piqued my interest there. 5, maybe 10 years from now, your opinion, what does the arena situation look like for Arkansas? Is it a completely overhauled, fresh coat of paint on Bud Walton? Do they maybe explore building a new building? How do you see this unfold? I'm
not sure they build a new building. I think it's probably inevitable that it gets reduced in seating some. It definitely has to. They need to improve the concourse. It's too crowded. People are jammed in there. Concession stand takes you too long to go to the concession stand.
And the bathroom.
There was a plan that Jeff Long released for a possible improvement to Bud Walton years ago, and I liked it. What they did was they took the brick that's on that concourse level. It's brick all the way around. They removed the brick, and they brought out. Probably put steel in the side and created an extra space around the edge, and then they had glass there so that you would have, if you have a concession stand, you can approach it from either side. So you're able to double the number of people you can deal with. And if you're coming around that other side, you can look out the window and see the parts of the campus. You don't have to be stuck inside, and it creates more room. People aren't bumping into each other. And then, look, those seats, as far as I know, have not been replaced. Yeah. Since '92, so they got to be wearing out. So at the very least, you got to do that. I've heard that the heating system is not very good. That's going to have to be replaced. I don't know about air conditioning. It's not usually very hot in there during basketball season, but they got to do some things like that. And I think they'll eventually add some more club areas and things like that. What I don't like is what they've done to the media room, because it doesn't hardly exist anymore. You got to give the media a place to work. And I'm mad because Frank Broyles brought me in. I've mentioned this before. When he had the architect, before it was ever built, he had a big drawing in the room where they were working, and he made me sit there and wait for about an hour while they did other things. But when he brought me over, the architect standing there just had a big space. He said, all right, what do we do with this space? And they wanted to have the press conference room big and the media room small. I said, no, do it the other way around. We can afford to be crammed together when we ask questions. But those reporters and media people need a place to sit down and work, bring their computers in and write and do all that stuff post-game. And now that's all gone. I guess they're supposed to do it upstairs where they are and just stay up there. I don't know, but I don't like it. I don't like what they did with that. I hope someday they get that back.
I thought one thing that was really cool when Musselman came back is he turned the lights on at Barnhill Arena.
Yeah.
So if they're going to do some big-time renovations, you think they could spend a season at Old Barnhill?
I don't know if they would do that or not.
They're not going to spend the season in Little Rock.
They'll probably just work around it. Expect people to kind of work around if they don't finish what they do. They would have to be a massive project to last more than an off season. I think if they're going to do something that big, they'd probably build a new one somewhere. But where do you put it?
I think it's got to stay on campus.
Yeah,
and that thing is like in the heart of campus.
Yeah, there was a suggestion that it get moved out by the university. The university's got a lot of land out there by the university farm, and it's real close to the highway, the bypass, I-49 and whatever, and it would be easy access. And there was a suggestion that you put it out there and you have, interstate ramps that go in and out, and you get traffic in and out of there very quickly. But it's too far away from the students. You expect those students to, how are they going to get out there? You want students to be able to walk a few blocks and right there at the arena.
Yeah, I would hope that the answer would be some kind of like major overhaul to what we have with Bud Walton Arena. More to come here on Arkansas basketball. Darius Acuff setting an SEC freshman record. That's coming up next on Ask Mike. Back here on Ask Mike, talking more about the Arkansas basketball team suffering what is very clearly their worst loss of the season. They go to Auburn, they get rocked. Have to see how they respond coming up Wednesday night against South Carolina. Next question here coming from Eddie Lynn, who asked, do you think Acuff was affected more than we know by that ankle problem that he had late in the Ole Miss game? He came up limping. He also came out of the game with cramps. I'm worried that he's wearing himself down by trying to be Superman every game. Had mentioned there, Acuff, a new record, an SEC record. This had never been done before. 5 consecutive weeks, the SEC Freshman of the Week.
Yeah. I don't think there was any evidence in that Auburn game that he had some sort of he wasn't limping, he didn't look like he'd lost quickness or anything like that. So I don't think there's an issue with that ankle problem. And I don't think Cal would have put him in there if it was a problem, or he would have played him less. This whole wearing him down thing is somewhat concerning because he's playing so many minutes, averaging around 34. He played a little more than 34 in this game. And that's 6 more minutes than anybody else played in that game. So he's still on the floor a lot. Do you at some point try to reduce that a little bit just so that he'll be fresh? I just don't see it happening. He's going to have to work through it.
Yeah, I mean, do they really have the depth? Because certainly he's such a unique player. I mean, he's a really hard guy to replace for quality minutes if you're going to, remove him from the floor 5 to 8 minutes extra a game.
Maybe if you get up big at home, up by 15, 20 at some point late, and you just say, okay, we're sitting you down. Mm-hmm. Maybe that helps, but other than that, especially on the road, I don't know how you don't play him.
And not going to be many nights off in the SEC. Probably, top to bottom, the best conference in the country yet again. Next question here coming from Maxwell from Malvern, who says, I don't like all the complaints about our bigs. They did not vanish against Auburn. Brazil, Ewan, Pringle scored 28 points, had 19 rebounds, 3 blocked shots. That's not disappearing.
Well, again, they scored. That's not the issue. And I thought Ewan was okay. I mean, I think he got a couple of fouls where he got careless, but he was in there battling. It was Pringle and it was Brazil, and they weren't playing defense. All you had to do is watch what was going on to see that. They just failed. I don't care how many points you score. If you're giving up more to the guy you're supposed to be on, you score 12 and he scores 30. What's the net result of that? That's where he made the mistake. So offensively, okay, they were okay, but they disappeared defensively. So I think it's a fair complaint.
I think it's fair to say that Darius Acuff is their best player. He's going to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft, presumably even next year that's going to happen. Who do you think their most important player is? Because Trevin Brazil really jumps out to me. In their biggest wins of the season, Louisville, Texas Tech, even Tennessee, where he didn't have the numbers, but if you watch that game, he impacted the game defensively. So who do you view right now, not as their best player, their most important player night in, night out to win?
I mean, go back to the NCAA tournament last year. When he started playing better, look what difference it made. And he's going to have to do that, and I don't know what it takes. I don't know what it takes to convince him. Do you see him on any draft list? Do you see him second round? I don't see him mentioned.
No, not so much, but in fairness, it's going to be hard for a 22, 23-year-old player to go in the first round.
Okay.
That's just not really how the NBA draft works.
It looks like to me he's not going to be drafted, so he's going to have to go in as a free. I just think he needs to get on the stick. He can still improve his situation, but it's like he doesn't understand it or something. I don't know. This would be the biggest time. If I'm him, I'm thinking this is my time. I can't waste any more games.
Does the way this game evolved against Auburn, we all have concerns. You have concerns even when a team's undefeated. Does it change in any way your expectations for them, or no? Do you still feel this is an Elite Eight, Final Four caliber team?
No, it's not absolute, but I would say it changed my mind for sure. I think now, if they were to get to the Elite Eight, that would surprise me. Sweet 16, okay, maybe. I don't see them going to the Elite Eight if they keep doing this.
And as little as a week ago, you would have thought hey, this could be a Final Four team.
Yeah, absolutely, because they had not played that defense that badly again.
We got to get back there. I want to see them be a Final
That's
Four.
right.
1995. That's way too long ago. Next question here coming from Kentucky Hog, who says, unless I'm wrong, the Hogs are tied for second place in the conference. They will bounce back.
Well, maybe. Look, they got South Carolina at home Wednesday. Okay, you win that. Maybe you think about things a little better. Guess what? You have to go back on the road to Georgia. They're 14-2, but they haven't lost a game at home. I'm going to tell you right now, I do not expect Arkansas to win that game. I've watched Georgia all year long. They are really good at home. Then the Hogs come back after that to face the number one team in the SEC right now. That's Vanderbilt. That's the game you have to win. Now, Vanderbilt's still got to go some places. They go to Texas. Then they play Florida at home. Florida's improving. So what if Florida beats Vanderbilt at home and then Vanderbilt comes here? I don't know if that's good. I think it'd be better for Vanderbilt to be number one and undefeated, and Arkansas plays them here. The atmosphere at Bud Walton will be nutso if that happens. That's on a Tuesday night, by the way. So can we get that place rocking and rolling on a Tuesday night?
And they'll have the national marquee. I think it's another 8 o'clock game. That should be right.
Yeah.
You got a thought on where college sports are at? We got Indiana on the doorstep of winning a national title in football. We got Vanderbilt that just had a 10-win season, nearly made the college football playoff, and now their basketball team, 16-0 and threatening to be a top 5 team here.
Well, it's parity, and it's good. Parity is good. People want. Do we really want sports to be predictable? I don't like it when it's predictable. I like upsets. I like watching. I'll sit and watch. Even if there are two teams that I have no real interest in, if I'm watching a game, I'm going to pull for the team that's not supposed to win. I like it. Shocker, you know.
The underdog, it's relatable to us, right? We've all been doubted at some point.
Where'd they come up with that term upset? It was a horse that beat Man of War.
Very good.
In a race. And everyone, they went, wow, that upset won, and upset became the term.
Mike Irwin, Google with legs. That's a good nickname for you. We got to take a quick time out here on Ask Mike. We're back with more after the break. Back here on Ask Mike, still talking plenty with the Arkansas basketball team. I'm going to eventually get to some Arkansas football stuff as it relates to the transfer portal as well. Next question here coming from Tarrant County Hog, who asked, do you think the injury to Carter Knox caused some of the problems against Auburn?
I mean, he only played 7 minutes, so you can't say if he'd have played more, it would have been better. I don't think it makes a difference in who wins the game. Now, if you look, in the 7 minutes he played, he scored no points. He had 0 assists and 1 rebound. Now, here's what happened. He played about 4 minutes, and Arkansas was down by 2 when he left the first time, went to the bench. So he comes back, and they're down by 7. Then he plays just a little over 2 minutes before he got injured, and in that time, the lead doubled from 7 to 14, so he wasn't doing anything to have a big effect on the game there. I mean, could he have had an effect later on? Maybe, but again, it could have. Maybe they lose by 18, 17, 15 instead of 21, but I don't see it. I don't think that's why they had the problem they had.
You a little surprised, or do you have any reasoning behind why he's, struggled isn't the right word, but, preseason, some people thought like, hey, Carter Knox may be their best player.
All I can do is go with what Cal said. He said he was listening to expectations too much. He was listening to people say, hey, you're supposed to be better than that. And then he was getting mad at himself instead of just relaxing and doing whatever he does. He was coming on. That's the whole point. Now, I don't know how.
He's definitely had flashes, no question.
Yeah. And so I think he's on his way back. I don't know how. We'll have to wait and see if this injury is a factor. If he doesn't play, tomorrow. When is it? Wednesday night.
Wednesday against South Carolina.
Wednesday against South Carolina. We'll see if he's out there. I would like to see him out there because I think they got 7 or 8 players and all of them need to be playing well.
As we record this on a Monday, next game on a Wednesday, keep in mind, I think after this week, they only have like 1 or 2 more Wednesday night games the rest of the year. So kind of an odd year for Arkansas basketball. A lot of these midweek games are going to be on Tuesday and Thursday in conference play. Next question from Hog Redneck, who says, you want a shocker? How about Alabama losing at home to a struggling Texas team? Nate Oates' head has to be spinning.
Yeah. If you look at Alabama's schedule, you're going to get a shock. They played a tougher schedule than Arkansas. Everybody talks about Arkansas. Here's who they played. Number 5 at the time, St. John's. Number 2, Purdue. Number 8, Illinois. Number 12, Gonzaga. Number 1, Arizona. And number 11, Vanderbilt. They only went 2-4 in those games. But here's what I think can happen. When you're playing teams that good, you lose some of them, but then you win some of them, and I think your players can it doesn't hurt as much as if you lost a game you shouldn't lose. So, yeah, those guys are really good. But, hey, we bounced back and won this game. You know, we beat, I think they beat Louisville. So, you know, we're okay. And then you don't really understand what's really going on there. Now, what Nate Oates said after the game, he went off. He went off on his players. And he said, losing doesn't hurt these guys. It doesn't bother them. He said, it bothers me. It bothers my staff. It bothers our fans. It doesn't bother them. And we are not going to get better until losing bothers them. So I started looking at that. And I looked at their schedule, looked at their roster. They got one player. Their best player is from Alabama. Everybody else is from all over the place. They got guys from all over the country. So Nate Oates goes out into the portal and brings in the best players. I hear this complaint all the time. My buddy in Lubbock, who doesn't like Texas Tech's football team. Again, what did I say last week? He said,
bunch of mercenaries.
He said, we used to have guys that we knew about because we watched them play in the Lubbock area in high school games, and we'd read about them in the paper. Now they're bringing in these people we've never heard of them before, and they're here a year and then they're gone. Nate Oates bringing in guys from all over the place. I mean, if you drew a map where all these guys from this roster, I mean, you might just circle about half the country all over the edge. They're nowhere near Alabama. So harder for them to buy into the whatever Alabama basketball is supposed to be. They're not connected with the fan base. And again, like I said, if you're playing a tough schedule and you win some and you lose some, maybe you don't think it's too bad. Now this shocker might wake them up. I don't know. But I would like for them to stay down because Arkansas plays them late, I think middle of February, pretty late in the conference.
It is on the road.
And you have to go there. So if they're down at that time and they're beatable, that would be an unexpected benefit. So keep it up, Alabama. Keep doing that.
It's hard to predict the future. So, you know, and I always like to say, we got a show to do today. So it's our opinion today. It's our information today. It doesn't mean that our opinions and the information can change. Long term, well, all this transferring stuff and the lack of identity and the pride in the community and the pride in the state, is that going to damage college sports? Because I know in our minds, passionate people, we think it will. However, you look at college football, the ratings have never been higher.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, people complain about it, but people are adjusting to it as well. So I don't know where we're headed on this. I keep running into people that say they're mad and they don't care anymore. But like you say, are the TV ratings down? Do people not show up for games if you're good? Of course they do. So I think it does help, you know, again, what's happened at Indiana and, you know, what's happening with Vanderbilt right now. If you can look at teams that are not big-name programs and then all of a sudden they're among the best there are, it kind of gives hope for Arkansas fans. They look at Indiana and go, we could bounce back. Maybe we could bounce back. So it's not a bad thing at all.
Your guy in Lubbock, you think he's pissed off at all? Like he sees the Brendan Sorsby thing and thinks $5 million, you know what?
Yeah, exactly.
We should not be spending money on a $5 million quarterback.
Yeah, well, what he said to me was, well, we spent $40 million and we still don't have a playoff win. We got a playoff game, we got a playoff loss. Or are they going to turn around and do the same thing again? Because it looks like that's what they're doing. They're going to spend another $40 million. At what point do the people that are spending this money every year start going, maybe we can't do this forever? You know, it's just, I don't know where we're headed with this.
Cody Campbell, the billionaire booster that's been funding this whole Texas Tech experiment, he was on the record before the season started saying, we're going to be good this year, but wait until you see what we have next year. So maybe Texas Tech in 2026, they do take an even bigger jump forward. Next question here. Moving on to football, coming from Razor Taz, who wants to know, how are you feeling about the football team with the players that have been added so far? And is there a position you have concerns about still?
You know, right now that portal class is rated somewhere around 15th, 16th in the country. And they do
two major publications.
Yeah.
In the top 20 in both.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that. Because you look at the players they've got and the total number of players, and they do it numerically, and that's where you're at right now. That is a big surprise to me. I did not think they would do that well. But the best part of this thing, and I've watched this thing go, we've done this show several times since the portal opened. Started off, I remember the first Ask Mike we did, I said, I think it's a net negative.
It was a slow start, that opening weekend.
Yeah.
It was.
They lost a lot of guys, and I felt like it was a net negative. But then very quickly that started turning around. And then what we started seeing, and what amazed me, was the sheer numbers of players they were bringing in at every position. You know, it's one thing to say, okay, we need some linebackers. So you get linebackers, but they got 6 of them. I'm like, what? 6? And then you look around and you say at a position like wide receiver where they already have some good guys coming back. They got 3 or 4 that are very promising. Most of them were all hurt. Cisse, or however you say that,
yeah.
he was hurt.
Jaylen Brown got hurt mid-year.
Jordan was hurt. Monte Harrison, he was hurt. So all those guys, but they're all very talented, and you have them coming back. But they went out and got 3 wide receivers, and they just went out and got a huge get. Now they're taking a risk with this kid from Boise State because he's been everywhere. He started off at A&M, and I don't know if they ran him off, but he ended up at Ole Miss.
Got kicked off the team.
He got kicked off the team, goes JUCO, then he ends up at Boise, and even last year I don't think he played every game because he was in trouble 2 or 3 times. So now he comes here. This is your last shot, bub. If they say that he has the potential to be a high draft pick in the NFL.
He's got that kind of body.
He's that kind of ability. So can he wake up and be focused here? If he does, wow. And so again, that wasn't even an area of need. You look at where they needed offensive tackles. I thought, okay, if they get 2 good ones, they got 4.
And the kid from Louisiana is big time.
He's big.
He literally is 6'7", 340, and regarded as one of the best tackles in the portal.
And then they get the kid from Ouachita Baptist, D2, half the SEC wanted him. So you can't say that these aren't players. And again, what surprised me was that, and I think it's a result of that he has multiple coaches at every position. So they're sitting there. You can imagine them sitting there in this war room with the GM they have who controls all the money.
Like the NFL draft.
And they're each going, well, wait a minute now, I want this guy, I want that guy. And Ryan Silverfield is saying, okay, we're not going to have any holes. Because that's what I saw last year, big holes. And I remember thinking to myself, they better hope that some of these defensive tackles come around. They better hope they don't get any injuries. They better hope nobody in the secondary bails or doesn't have a good year. There's some untrained guys back there that are going to have to step up. And right off the bat, we saw how bad it was. And it went from bad to worse because your recruiting, your portal class was not balanced. I don't see that right now, and that's the best thing I can say about it. But again, some of these guys may not develop. Some of the guys you think are the best players and you count on the most, they could come in and bomb, and somebody you don't even expect may play well because that's the way this works.
Do you got a problem, going back to the Chris Marshall thing, Boise State? I hear more so in the NFL, you don't really hear coaches in college say this because they don't want to throw any of their players under the bus and don't bring bad attention on. But I've heard people in the NFL say, we're not going to win with a team acquire, boys. You want the best character guys you can find, but that's just not going to happen. Do you have a problem with them taking a flyer on this kid? Because for the most part, it does feel like they've built enough of a culture, enough of a good infrastructure where maybe they can absorb somebody that needs a little bit of coddling.
If they had lost somebody important to them to get him, and then he comes in and bombs out, then you've screwed up big time. But what you just said, if you've taken care of business in every other area and he's just kind of a luxury where you can take a chance on him, I think it's great.
Yeah. And Silverfield, did say, hey, if the character's not there, if they're not committed, they are not going to be here. Now, again, everybody deserves a chance before they get here. So shout out to Chris Marshall at 6'2"-ish, I think 215. I mean, this is an NFL body type wide receiver and an NFL type talent too. Next question here coming from Sun Tzu Tuskew, aka John Everett. Wow, that's a mouthful right there. What's your opinion on how this team is being built? Do you see good signs or bad omens? I'm trying to be realistic about the first year, but would love to see a bowl game. We all would.
Can't predict a bowl game. I just don't see bad signs. It doesn't mean they won't pop up, because maybe somebody doesn't develop that you think they will. But again, when you look at where they had needs, they've gone out and got players where you look at their background and you say to yourself, for instance, let's take this quarterback situation, because they ended up with 3 for a while. Now they've got 4, and we'll talk about the 4th here in a minute. But the number 3 guys, I think a Nicholls State guy, that's Division II.
Angelo State.
Angelo State.
Braden Fuller, I think I might have the name right. It was a Harlan Hill finalist, which is a D2
Angelo
Heisman.
State's even below Nicholls State, right?
Yeah, Nicholls State 1AA, correct.
Yeah. So, the Division II guy. But he apparently was in the running for the Heisman in that division.
Harlan Hill Award, that is correct.
And he played all year long. He's been in games. Now, this is why that's important. Let's say K.J. Jackson gets hurt. I don't care if he's out for a quarter or a game or 2 games. You gotta have somebody that can come in there and you don't get beat because of your quarterback. Well, he's competed. He might not be what they want, but if he doesn't come in there and get them beat, I still remember one of the biggest problems that Sam Pittman had was they just didn't have an adequate backup for KJ. That one year when he missed 4 games.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And they lost every one of those 4 games when he wasn't there. You can't have that. You've got to have somebody that can step in. Look what Ole Miss had. They lost their regular quarterback pretty early, and then it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to them.
And Trinidad James, by the way, D2 quarterback.
D2 quarterback.
A little bit higher credentials, but still, they found him at the D2 level.
Because he was a player. And that's what I'm saying. I like that acquisition. They brought in a freshman quarterback from Memphis. He looks good. He was a 4-star out of high school. The coaches know him. Maybe he's somebody in the future. I don't know that you want him playing this year if KJ gets hurt. But this kid, maybe, because he's been there and he's had to win games and he's been in the thick of things. And some fans have a hard time understanding that playing is playing. When you've been in the thick of things and you have to come up with a play and your defense is closing in on you and you're about to be sacked and you have to look and boom, there's a receiver. Boom, wait a minute, I gotta squirt out here and go for 8 yards. When you've had to do all that, that's better than a 4-star who's not done any of that stuff.
All right. Big time class for Arkansas. Have to wait and see. Part of that big time class now, a high school kid from Fayetteville High School involved with a little bit of a controversy as it relates to his head coach, who's a prominent former Razorback. Mike Irwin taking a question on that after a quick timeout. Back here on Ask Mike, talking a whole lot about the transfer portal. New look under Ryan Silverfield. Arkansas going to get spring football going. I don't know, probably sometime in the next 6 to 8 weeks here. Next question coming from Juracek Musko. That's probably the same guy that said Sam Musko, right? He just changed the handle there. Permit me to throw some cold water on this portal class. You media guys are raving about. What we have is a bunch of players who were good at next to 5 and FCS schools. Most of the Power 4 transfers did not play where they were at. There's a reason why we got them next to 5. G5.
Yeah.
So hey, there's some ballers that have come from the G5 level. There's some really good players come from the FCS level too. So maybe this guy's just a hater.
Well, he's exaggerated that a little bit. I wouldn't say most of the Power 4 transfers didn't play, but there are some. But you got to look at what happened. And a good example is this Phoenix Jackson. He was at Baylor. Okay, he's a good player, but he got hurt and he got turf toe. If you know anything about turf toe, it's an extremely unpredictable injury. Sometimes you're over it in a week and a half. Sometimes I've seen players out the entire rest of the season and still having a problem with it the next year. It's how severe it is. So he gets this turf toe. It's his last year. He's a senior. And he wants to play a full year. And so he goes to his coaches and he says, look, I would like to redshirt. I've only played 3 games, so I can redshirt here and I can come back. And they're fine with that. Okay, yeah, we got enough depth here. Yeah, we'll let you do that. But then he's okay within a week or 2. And he's back out at practice and he's looking pretty good. And they go, well, you should unredshirt now. We need you. And he's going, no, I had an agreement with you. I want to play a whole year. And he said they kind of got mad about that. And he said, I got the very definite impression they weren't going to help use me the next year. They were going to punish me. So he said, I left. I hit the portal. So he goes to Washington State, looks at their, and then he comes here. And the first thing he finds out when he gets here is that the defensive coordinator here plays a lot of linebackers. I've talked about that before. Some of their linebackers are actually edge rushers, guys that they bring down on the edge to add more, but they will stack the line of scrimmage with linebackers. Some of them come forward and blitz, some at the snap drop back in coverage. You need a lot of linebackers, and he said they told me they were bringing in a bunch. Well, they ended up with 6, and he's one of them. So are you going to sit here and tell me that because he didn't play last year, he's no good? I wouldn't say that. If he hadn't been injured, he would have played, and he wouldn't be available now. So I can't guarantee you he's going to have a huge impact. But I like the process that he went through to get here. He's thinking. And the other thing that he said was he wanted to get some money. And why did he want to get some money? Because his parents are right at that retirement age, and he wanted to give it to them. He wanted them to have some extra money. Maybe he wanted to help pay off their house or something like that. Sounds like a really good kid. So I'm glad they got him.
Yeah, and don't you take a little stock in this too? It's the type of players they're getting, meaning, well, let's compare who they're getting offers from. And they're competing against, some Ohio State, some SEC schools, even Georgia Tech, Texas Tech, these schools that have had a lot of money in the portal. And Arkansas is winning some of these battles. Yeah,
and let's don't downplay these Power 4 transfers. This Tulane transfer, Yaheem Johnson, I guess how you say it. All right, he's considered one of the top D-backs in the portal. Now, here's what you need to understand about him. He was at Tulane. He played in a playoff game. You don't want a kid that was actually played against
and was an all-conference player.
And went up against Trinidad Chambliss. And guess what Chambliss did in that game? I mean, yeah, Tulane got beat pretty handily, but Chambliss was held to under 300 yards passing and had just one passing touchdown. You've got a kid that went up against him. Why would you not want to bring him in here? Were you going to say, oh, well, he's the next of four, group of four, we don't want him? I mean, he's one of the more heavily recruited defensive backs, and they got him, and I'm glad they have him. So it's just, you can start talking about, oh, this guy's Division II or whatever, or he's not this, or you brought in a Power 4 guy, but he didn't play a lot last year. I mean, you can play that game all day long, but you have no idea what's going to happen.
Fantastic impression of a grumpy Sports Bar Arkansas fan there. I love that one. S. Giles, next question here asking, who will be the most impactful transfer in the class? I'll go with the offensive tackle out of Wichita Baptist. When you need an offensive tackle in the worst way and you take a kid away from Alabama, Texas, and Georgia, that's big. Mike, this is kind of what we're talking about. They're competing against some big schools for players.
Yeah, this is a really interesting story in that he comes to camp here last year. You got Sam Pittman as your head coach. He's an offensive line guru. And they look at this kid and say, no, we don't have a scholarship for you. So he goes to Wichita Baptist where he gets a scholarship. Then all of a sudden, Pittman's gone. Arkansas wants him. Now, what a lot of kids would do in that situation, because, I mean, look who wanted him. I heard that the other SEC schools offered more money than Arkansas did. Most kids would go, you blew me off. I'm going to Texas.
I'm going to stick it to you.
I'm going to Alabama. I'm going to play you, and I'm going to beat you. There's something going on with these Warren kids, and I don't know what it is, but they just love to be Razorbacks. And he didn't do any of that. He just went, yeah, I'm going there, and they paid him less. I think we're going to have to end up with a feature on Bo Hembry, who's the coach, because he keeps cranking these guys out. And I don't know how he does it. I don't know what his secret is.
And he was the coach back with Greg Childs, Jarius Wright, Chris Gregg. He was still there then?
He was. In fact, he goes all the way back, as far as I know, to the early 2000s when the internet message boards first started. The first couple of big players that he had that went to other SEC schools. And I remember Razorback fans saying they want to run him out of the state. Get him out of here. He's not loyal. He shouldn't
sending his kids to Arkansas.
He shouldn't be allowed to be a coach in Arkansas if he's sending his kid. And now somehow this is all turned around, and for at least about the last 10, 15 years, he's been funneling people in here, and they're just nuts about Arkansas. They just want to come in here, and it doesn't matter how much money they get or whatever, they want to play. So here's the latest, and I promise you, we're going to be following this kid because that is a really good story. His whole background and how they rejected him, and now he's back here, and he's maybe an answer to a big problem they've got.
There's another high school football coach, Mike, quite literally coaching in the shadows. Literally in the shadows of the Arkansas campus, saying some things over the weekend, and he really got people's attention. Maybe one of the biggest topics of the week here. Next question coming from Pig Worsperer wants to know, What is going on with Casey Dick saying Ryan Silverfield and staff are no longer welcome at Fayetteville High School? Is Silverfield really poaching an Arkansas high school quarterback early without speaking with his coach first? Mike, what do you know about this whole situation?
Well, I'm still not sure what exactly happened because different people have told me different things. I'm pretty sure that Casey Dick didn't know anything about this until they sort of had come together.
He told him he was leaving.
Yeah. Now, look, this still hasn't happened. He hasn't signed or anything
Correct.
like this. This
Correct.
could
Hadn't graduated, you're right.
This could still be undone. But the point is, I can understand why he's mad. If I had one of the best high school quarterbacks in the country coming back to my program, and I'd already done all this off-season planning about what we were going to do, and then I wake up one day and find out, wait a minute, he's gone, I'd be mad too. The mistake he made was in going on Twitter. I'd have called Silverfield up. I'd have said, can I come over there? I want to talk to you. What are you doing here? Why didn't you tell me? They should have told him. He should have been informed. Now, this is going to get worked out. It may have already been worked out. Somebody's told me they were meeting today. I don't know if that happened yet. But they're going to get together. They're going to talk, and it's all going to get worked out. The two programs need each other. They can't afford to be mad at each other. It'll get worked out. The bigger issue here, though, and you and I have gone back and forth on this, is this what's best for this kid? Probably not.
And also because what's best right now, and a big fat check is a great thing, may not be best for you 5-6 years down the line.
Exactly. However, it's pretty hard for me to argue that his dad, who is a college football coach and an analyst for Arkansas right now.
No coincidence, by the way.
And evidently he's really smart. That's what I've been told. The kid is super smart. How else do you think he would be able to skip his entire senior year of high school? This isn't a guy, okay, I played through the fall of my senior year and now I'm coming out early and I'm already graduated a semester. I've known people that graduated a semester early. It's really tough to graduate a full year early, which tells you he's smart. Okay, but is he physically ready to do this? No. Now, you start asking yourself, why wouldn't Arkansas tell him that? Hey, just go back and play another year. Well, he goes back and plays another year and has a great year, and more people recruit him, you might lose him.
What if he becomes the #1 quarterback in the country? Yes.
So if he's willing to come here and you got the money for him and you say, yeah, we'll give you this. I heard he might get as much as $1 million for the 2 years. I don't know if that's accurate. But if you can bring him in and do that, who knows what you'll have in 2 years. You might have exactly what you're looking for. So I can't fault them for wanting him. I can't tell his dad, you should tell your kid not to do this. I have no right to do that. He's smarter than I am about football and smarter than I am about his kids, so I'm not going to criticize him for that. The only mistake here was you got to have the head coach informed. You can't start finagling like this and not talk to him. And then the head coach has got to go directly to the person he feels like should have informed him instead of going on Twitter.
There's a lot of layers to this topic. It's really in football, it's kind of unprecedented. I did want your thought on this. So we can debate all along about, well, what's best for the kid? And, what's best for the kid is whatever the kid wants. That's the real answer. And I'm sure the dad is telling the kid, hey, if this is what you want, you go do it. Explain this to me. Is it best for Arkansas, if some of these rumors are true, let's call it a $500,000 to $1 million NIL deal over the next 2-3 years, whatever it is. Let's call it 2 years. Kid's probably not going to play a single snap. Is that the best allocation of money for Arkansas?
You got a GM over there that decides that. You got the head coach that decides it. You got a quarterback's coach that decides it.
Because it seems like, if it's $1 million for $500,000, you can get some good players right now who can play.
Again,
if it's true.
If there were holes in what they're doing, I would say yes. The only hole I see right now in the portal, and I wouldn't call it a hole, but they only brought in, as of right now, 2 running backs, and they've got 1 that's coming back that you can count on. So that's 3, and I'm told that their new running backs coach likes to play 4 in a game. So we got 4 days left. If they pull in a good, and guess, it's really funny to go read some of these other websites. If you're looking at Arkansas right now and you're an Arkansas fan and you have questions about this, you need to understand right now, Alabama fans are going nuts Absolutely nuts, because Texas has stolen a couple of their players. And they're like, what's this all about? And they're mad at DeBoer. They're mad anyway because they got beat. So they're panicking. But guess who also is panicking? Texas, because 3 of their running backs have left. Yeah. What's going on here? How come we can't hang on to our running backs? So if you're able to go in there and steal one of those Texas running backs, and I think one of them was recruited by the running backs coach when he was at Florida State. So.
And Arkansas does have it. They got good depth right now at running back. They may need some more bodies. Braylon Russell coming back. He's performed. Cam Settles. This previous staff was very high on Cam Settles, the future. He's coming back. Jasper Parker, is that his name? Michigan. A lot of people really wanted him. Sutton Smith. He torched Arkansas.
He's really good.
He's so fast, crazy fast. So they've got some good bodies coming in, but as you said, they may, 4 running backs not enough for the grind.
One more wouldn't bother me a bit.
Yeah. Speeding things up a bit here. Hog Dog, our next question. So we have a GM for basketball, GM for football. Are there 2 separate accounts to pull from to fund each program? Do the GMs collaborate with each other, disperse the funds? How does this all work?
No, that's confusing. You've got an overall GM. That's Remy Cofield. Then you've got I can't ever pronounce this guy's name. It's a very strange name. But you've got a GM for football. He's the one that's handling all the
guys
football
at Crowley, yeah.
Yeah. The GM overall, the overall GM is for the future, because supposedly they're going to have a GM for football, a GM for basketball, maybe a GM for baseball, maybe a GM for women's sports, and he will be kind of the overall of them. I don't see a need for that right now. If I'm Hunter Yurachek, I got my GM for football. I'm told Calipari handles all of his stuff. I'm told that Dave Van Horn has no problem doing his own stuff. I would just tell Remy Cofield, you handle anybody else that's got a problem. You deal with all the rest of them. We got our football guy. I don't see the need for a bunch of those guys. Maybe I'm overlooking something, and maybe in the future, but it's supposedly to get less complicated. But supposedly they're going to reduce NIL, so you're going to mostly be rev sharing and meeting the cap on that, and it won't be as difficult. So I don't know.
Moving things on here, Counselor Hogg asks, can you explain how Carson Beck has played college football for 7 years? This is the Miami quarterback. He's going to be in the national title game leading the Hurricanes against Indiana.
Okay. This is kind of hard to explain. So I went on the internet and looked at an AI explanation because I felt like it was very concise. And here's what AI says about this. Carson Beck has played college football for 6 seasons, 2020 through 2025, and that is 6 years, by using a redshirt year at Georgia in 2020 and getting an extra year of eligibility from the NCAA's COVID-19 waiver, making his 2025 season at Miami his final year. Although some sources add to his career with an informal 7th season due to his extended time and impact playing for Georgia and 2020 through in Miami. But the truth is he's really had 6 years, not 7. There's just some people calling it 7. Now look, the NCAA is cracking down on some of this stuff, as evidenced by Trinidad Chambliss's request for a 6th season, which was denied. So I don't think it wasn't 7, it's 6. 6 is all you've ever had, as far as I know, and I think that's going away.
Final question of the week here. Why did Frank Broyles fire Dave Woodman as Arkansas's announcer?
Okay, if you go back to 75 when I first got here, you had a coach's show because most of the games were not on TV. I'm talking football. Yeah. So the only way, if you didn't have season tickets, the only way you saw what went on in a football game is they had a coach's show, like the Frank Broyles show. And he would show most of the quick highlight. It would just be one play after another, but in the course of an hour, you could show the whole game or all the big plays. And so fans watched it to see that. Dave Woodman was that guy. He was at KATV, the ABC affiliate in Little Rock. And he also, in addition to doing the coach's show, he did the games. He did the radio for the basketball games, and then sometimes they would televise a non-conference game. In November and December, in September, you could get some of these non-conference games and you had the rights. It was easier to get the rights to televise them, so he would do that. So he's doing that. What happened was there was creative differences between Frank and Dave Woodman. Frank could be very difficult to work for, I will tell you this. And they didn't see eye to eye on how this show should be done, the Frank Broyles show. And Frank eventually fired him. Now, Channel 7 went, well, wait a minute. The guy that does the Frank Broyles show has to work for us. And Dave Woodman was their sports director in Antwerp. They said, well, you can't do that anymore. Well, KATV KARK, the NBC station, said, we'll take you.
Proud partner. Shout out Little Rock.
Yeah, we work with him. And so he went over there. He ended up working the rest of his career there. He worked till he was 75. He's retired now. He's still living in the Little Rock area. I read his tweets sometimes on Facebook. Real Christian guy, promotes his church all the time. People like him. Dave Woodman is a great guy. He didn't get fired because he was a bad guy. He just didn't see eye to eye on Frank Broyles on how that show should be done.
Quite the change. Quite the career for Mike Irwin. You're a legend, man. You're our Hall of Famer. We're always happy to have you. That's going to do it for this week's Ask Mike. We will be back next Monday.